Greetings to those of you watching this. My name is Russ Hatfield, and behind my shoulder is Kara, my higher dimensional twin soul and member of Ashtar Command on Hades Space. This is our third editorial, where we look back on a life of learning and a richness of knowledge it has brought. Living is about levels of existence that we compare with those of mankind's evolution. For a full transcript of this latest editorial, please go to our main homepage at hadespace.com. We invite you to subscribe to be kept informed of future postings on our YouTube channel from the members of Ashtar Command. And now, from Kara and I for the month of March, called You Earn What You Learn. The evolution of humanity is mirrored in the life of each person as reflected at several levels of that evolution. A person will often go through all the levels described below, or perhaps spend a whole life in just one. I know I have experienced each in pretty much the order presented, hence this editorial. Many of these levels overlap for me, and maybe others as well, so this is the list of those that have been the most influential throughout my life. Mankind's first forays out of Africa would be compared to someone clinging to their youth. The peak of the Roman Empire would be comparable to a bacchanalia. The Renaissance period would be a time of study. The industrial age would consist of a work ethic taken to an extreme, while the computer age would be an escape into gaming. The last age we'll go over is the Age of Enlightenment, where for me, requires the previous 5 levels to achieve one day. I'm in between the last 2 levels, with the better half of my soul already on the next level, constantly giving me a hand in my quest to join her there. It is hard to imagine now stopping at any of the previous levels to live out my life following that path, and thus delaying my moving on to the next dimension. I could have even possibly skipped a level or 2 had I made different life choices, but isn't that the case for all of us? So here it is, the evolution of a race through a life of lessons that taught what it is that is to come. The dawn of man was all about potential. The world of the 21st century proves that, with the drive for innovation changing the face of the planet daily. New generations look to expand beyond their elders until they too become the elders one day. That youth and energy is hard to give up, and some have a harder time than others accepting the onset of old age. Clinging to what was can hold someone back or be a benefit if used wisely. A series of unwise life choices left me estranged from my family and homeless at 17. Required to take on the life of an adult at such an early age left me missing my expected growth experiences. That regret may have been a liability at one point and caused other poor life decisions. It has been, since, a key driving force in experiments controlling the body's aging process. A desire to see life through the eyes of a child has kept the youthful attitude that makes living a joy. The next level of life for me, much like the Roman Empire, was comparably short and filled with stories of parties, battles with roommates, and betrayals. Leaders of the Roman establishment back then made poor life choices too, just as Pontius Pilate. One day Christianity would become the dominant religion of Rome. Takeaways of the Roman dynasty are both good and bad in making decisions depending on which aspect of ancient Roman life is embraced. Constant parties tend to lead to a shorter life, yet still be a choice of some as their way of life. Is a dead end to learning and a path I decided was not for me, so I applied the same discipline that brought a large part of the known world under their control. Conquering bad habits and vices was crucial in moving on to the next level, yet I shudder to think of the self I would have been had I not made, finally, the right life choices. The Renaissance period brought an age of light to an age of dark that has since persisted for hundreds of years. Starting with the printing press, learning was finally available to the masses, which brought a progression of education over Western Europe, only rivaled by the introduction of the Internet. Art, music, and science became available for all classes of people instead of those just in power. My own personal renaissance happened with the introduction of the book 2150 into my life from the author Thea Alexander. It described higher dimensional life almost exactly and became my guide for how I wanted to live. Learning can be addictive and became my new vice, much as it did in the 15th and 16th centuries. I had to move on to making a decent living, and so did the planet as the industrial age got off to a start, and building an economy went hand in hand with a transition out of the peasant class mentality. For me, that meant the end of minimum wage jobs that were taking me in circles. All of this was a result of the learning I had picked up in the previous level, which made up for a lack of scholastic achievements. Some people can take their jobs too seriously, where they exclude others who are not a part of that world. A life of work is not a means to an end, but an end to experiencing life fully. Maintaining a perfect balance between work, family, learning, and living is crucial to getting to the last level. Doing so for me took the same transition it took the world: the introduction of the personal computer. New industries rose up to replace the old ones, as did the jobs I could work which no longer involved sales or service. Now the world and I were ready for bigger and better things in this next stage, just getting started, as the full potential of both of us could be realized. When I got my first computer in 1998, it was to play computer games, which became an obsession that took decades to control. By the time we started doing the channeling sessions in the 90s, the internet was being born and growing in front of our very eyes. Such promise was also met with some trepidation as the first spam emails started hitting our inboxes. Since then, it has grown into the behemoth it is today, with more rabbit holes to fall into chasing down the truth of existence. Luckily, it also opened the way up to the next stage almost immediately. The age of enlightenment is our future, looking back at us in real time and seeing how best they can help us retroactively. This is best represented by my twin soul Kara, who is already on the next dimension along with all of Ashtar Command. They have been where we are at some point in their lives also and have the answers on how we can move up as individuals to join them. They do this without interfering in our world to make that happen so as to not affect its natural evolution. They leave it to each person to decide if their advice is what helps in that person's path to ascension. Total enlightenment is not necessary, though a dedication to lifting others after lifting the self are good steps in that direction. To that end, the age of enlightenment is just that: finding the light in things instead of the dark, replacing fear with the thrill of the challenge and facing whatever lessons are preparing us for the higher things. This is an age being written as we watch, and my part in the process is writing these words and helping the planet ascend. But I can look back from my first dawn out on my own and without a home to the point I am now is testimony that anyone can achieve the same results with the same effort, no matter what age you may be experiencing. Hopefully you, like me, have entered your own age of enlightenment, and I encourage you to continue with your studies no matter what the distractions. All of the ages the planet has been through have been long periods of time between each one except these last two. Computers were the key to making this a very quick transition between ages, and there is no telling what will happen going forward. It's all about the actions we take as a new age of enlightenment community. In love, light, and wisdom is one. Russ and Kara.